Why would the quality suffer so much if you were to drop the mobile index today?
So with these launches, we aim for a quality neutral change.
Right.
Which means that even if sites might flip in our search results, the general information satisfaction, anyway, will...
I'll translate later, by the way. So
will not change. We assess this with raters. The problem with this change is that, as I said, some tokens are missing, some content is missing on the mobile sites, and apparently some important content as well. So sites will not show up at all for specific queries. The other problem is that links / PageRank is still very important for us. It's one of the most important ranking signals that we have. One of the most important signals. And people, as Sherry said, that people don't really link on the mobile web. They don't, or they place fewer links to other sites, for example, and also internally. So we will have discovery problems as well. We will discover pages slower if sites don't link to those pages. So yeah, there are multiple problems. We are trying to figure out how can we deal with this because, like for example, asking people to place the links that are available on their desktop site, also on their mobile site, actually will not work. Typically, the web needs about 3 to 5 years to do the things that we ask them to do, or suggest. I think that's a better word. Well, it's too late, I guess. So yeah, there's tons of issues, and we are still trying to figure these out, and also try to figure out how we could not ask people to do things. So for example, with links, we are thinking that we could just smear the links from the desktop sites, because desktop crawling will not completely stop with the mobile first index. It will be just reduced. So for example, let's say that right now we are crawling with 90% desktop user agent, 10% mobile user agent. We would just flip that. So we would still crawl some with the desktop user agent Googlebot. So we would see the links. So we could perhaps just smear from the desktop.
Just to make sure that I'm clear on this. So you would still use the desktop crawl and use the links as a ranking signal from that, and then apply that to the corresponding mobile pages to make up for the fact that the links aren't really there in the mobile environment. And so that kind of really underscores one of the big issues here is, and I spent a lot of time talking about this morning, is that people implement their mobile sites very differently. And you have a very refined ranking algorithm, which is almost 20 years old, well, it's evolved over 20 years around a whole set of things. And now you're going into an environment where the implementation that people have been using is completely different. And it's actually not even that easy to change it, because you do have the fact that you're dealing with a small form factor device, right? And you don't necessarily want all the same stuff on here. But what do publishers do? I mean, should they try to do things where they put more links in the mobile experience?
So I do think that it makes sense to create at least content parity on the two sites, if it makes sense. So I would try to identify content that is not relevant to a mobile user. So for example, if you have product pages, then if you have text that is repeated on every single page on your site, then perhaps you don't have to copy that over.
Right.
But the product description, I wouldn't vandalize that and like cut it, because it might contain stuff that the user will search for.
Right, and that relates
with
back
links,
to...
With links, I don't think that we would ever ask people to like try to find the links that are not available on their mobile site. That would be kind of silly to do. Structured data, yes, definitely copy it over. You don't actually have to change pretty much anything, just copy over the structured data. Different media, make sure that the media is on the mobile site as well. Again, you will just not rank if for an image or with an image if it's not on the mobile site.
Right, so we heard Sherry Thoreau actually talk just before you about, and this is the reason why maybe copying over the links doesn't make sense, because by the time you have a link and then a little blank area and another link, I mean, it'll be like a very long page if you copied over all those links.
Yeah,
so
the real estate is different on the mobile device, so we also have to consider that.
Yeah, so then not only would you use a crawling of desktop web to see links for, from one person linking to another site, but you'd also use it to map through a navigation structure on a mobile site.
We could.
We could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that we don't know yet. So currently we have an implementation for mobile first indexing, and currently we use or we smear links solely for PageRank purposes, for PageRank calculations.
So you're relying on the mobile site navigation still?
For discovery and stuff, yeah.
Right.
I don't know what the next iteration will be. We are working with the team that is doing or is driving the mobile first indexing, and we want to make sure that it doesn't or it won't put too much strain on the publishers, because that's not our goal.
Right, and one of the things I heard you say before at SMX West, I believe it was, is today the expectation is that a desktop site, in the case of a mobile subdomain, for example, would have a rel alternate link pointing to a mobile site, and the mobile site will have a rel canonical pointing back to the desktop site. And I think what you said at SMX West is, even though logic might dictate if mobile was now first, that you would ask everybody to switch those tags, that you're not going to ask them
to switch those tags. The problem is, as I said, that it takes like 3-5 years for the web to do things that we suggest they should do. Oh, hey, I used the right word, suggest. And we just don't have time for that.
Right.
So we will use whatever currently is on the site. Again, I want to say, like, I say something today, and by like in 2 weeks it may change, because it's so much in flux, even inside Google. And you will hear conflicting information on this, at least until we put up a new blog post or new communications on our blog or help center about what can you do. It's definitely worth thinking about it. It's definitely worth making sure that the content that you want to rank with is also on your mobile site. But like, I wouldn't take anything for granted yet.
Right.
Because things will change.
Yep. And I mean, and just to clarify, I think what was happening to you is you might have somebody with 150 words of product description related information on a desktop site, and then on the mobile site there might be 25 words.
Yeah.
And when you were ranking for the desktop, what would happen is you would have them ranking for information on a desktop page, but it wasn't there on the mobile page.
Yeah.
And that's why you want to make sure you have, those should have parity with each other. Yeah. And that's why you don't care so much about the information which is like boilerplate repeat information, because you weren't going to rank the page for that anyway.
Well,
So,
sometimes we do, but
right.
those are low-scoring queries anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So for example, if we absolutely don't have content for pink unicorn flowers, then we would just use
Larry's still here?
the navigation items
Yeah,
or
there you go.
whatever from navigation items or other boilerplate from the page for ranking purposes. But in general, we do try to limit ourselves to the centerpiece.
Right.
Like whatever you have in the center, in the main content area, that's way more valuable than whatever you have in the navigation or footer or in some remote place on your site.